The issue of leadership and decision-making at Ferrari is back in the spotlight after the 2025 Miami Grand Prix. This time, the criticism comes from one of the most vocal and outspoken former drivers, Juan Pablo Montoya. In an exclusive post-race interview, Montoya criticized Ferrari for mishandling a strategic situation involving Lewis Hamilton, saying it could have derailed the entire season. What did Montoya say? Let's discuss. In the sweltering heat of the Miami street circuit, tensions were high, both because of the tropical weather and the classic dilemma that has plagued Ferrari again. Who should be prioritized when both drivers are in nearly equal condition? In this pressure-filled race, Lewis Hamilton, who started behind Charles Leclerc, performed faster and more consistently as he entered the middle phase. As he closed in on his teammate's car, it became clear that Hamilton could go faster, but he was blocked by Leclerc, who had not been instructed to yield. Frustrated, Hamilton sent a sharp radio message to the pit wall. His voice full of tension, he demanded clarity and action. "I'm faster. Give him instructions." However, his frustration only grew. Rather than making a quick, decisive decision, Ferrari seemed to hesitate. They were too quiet. The clock was ticking and crucial seconds were being wasted. In a world where split seconds decide victory, the confusion on the pit wall was critical. Former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya says this was Ferrari's biggest mistake. Ferrari was too busy trying to be fair. But this isn't about fairness, it's about winning, Montoya said sharply. If you have a faster driver, you have to let him lead. This is racing. Every second you waste because you're afraid of hurting the other driver's ego is a second you're not winning. Former Formula One driver Juan Pablo Montoya was equally critical of Ferrari. He believes the Maranello team is following in McLaren's footsteps from last season by failing to maximize their potential due to their reluctance to decide on a main driver. A team like Red Bull knows who their leader is. Mercedes never had any doubts during their era of dominance either. But McLaren lost their way in the 2024 season because they were indecisive between Norris and Piastri. Now, I see Ferrari repeating the same pattern, Montoya said in a recent interview. Montoya's comments further support the circulating opinion in the paddock that Ferrari is facing an internal dilemma. On the one hand, they want to maintain harmony between their two talented drivers, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. But the pressure to win immediately makes bold and unpopular decisions inevitable. Former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya says this was Ferrari's biggest mistake. Ferrari was too busy trying to be fair. But this isn't about fairness, it's about winning, Montoya said sharply. If you have a faster driver, you have to let him lead. This is racing. Every second you waste because you're afraid of hurting the other driver's ego is a second you're not winning. Former Formula One driver Juan Pablo Montoya was equally critical of Ferrari. He believes the Maranello team is following in McLaren's footsteps from last season by failing to maximize their potential due to their reluctance to decide on a main driver. A team like Red Bull knows who their leader is. Mercedes never had any doubts during their era of dominance either. But McLaren lost their way in the 2024 season because they were indecisive between Norris and Piastri. Now, I see Ferrari repeating the same pattern, Montoya said in a recent interview. Montoya's comments further support the circulating opinion in the paddock that Ferrari is facing an internal dilemma. On the one hand, they want to maintain harmony between their two talented drivers, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. But the pressure to win immediately makes bold and unpopular decisions inevitable. Amidst the increasingly suffocating spotlight and pressure, Hamilton remained calm. Apparently having trained for years in the intriguing world of racing, he refused to get caught up in public opinion and speculation. "I don't read the news, and I haven't used social media for a long time," Hamilton said in an interview, a philosophy that now seems to shield him from the storm of criticism. Amid high expectations and relentless pressure from the Tifosi, Ferrari is once again grappling with the bitter reality of this season. The problems faced by Scuderia Ferrari are not just a matter of internal team dynamics or poor pit stop strategies. The main problem runs much deeper, the SF25 car itself. Maranello's pride and joy has proven to have a series of fundamental weaknesses that remain unresolved. The car that was predicted to bring Ferrari back to the front row has instead become a source of disappointment. From practice sessions to races, the SF25 has been deemed deficient in various critical areas, including inconsistent balance, faster tire degradation compared to rivals, and a lack of top speed, which leaves them at a disadvantage on the straights. At the Miami Grand Prix, these shortcomings were brutally exposed. Instead of competing for a spot on the podium, Ferrari drivers Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were forced to settle for 7th and 8th place. These results fell far short of expectations, especially for a team as storied as Ferrari, which dreams of winning the World Championship title again. Charles Leclerc, the young driver expected to spearhead Ferrari's revival, finally spoke up. In an interview filled with honesty and frustration, he revealed that the team had tried various, quite extreme, technical approaches to improve the car's disappointing performance. He admitted to drastically changing his driving style to adapt to the car's new characteristics, which differ greatly from previous years. "I feel like I've driven very differently this year, just because the car requires a completely different setup and a completely different way of driving," Leclerc said gravely. "We went in an extreme direction because we had to. The car can't be approached in the old way. What worked last season is now holding us back." Ferrari's technical experimentation thus far has seemed like a big gamble. The radical change strategy has yet to produce consistent or promising results. In fact, observers are concerned that Ferrari may have gone too far without a solid foundation. In the highly competitive and detail-driven world of Formula One, one wrong move in design philosophy could mean a wasted season. This weekend in Imola, the stakes are high, not just for Ferrari, but also for the direction of the 2025 season. The Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix is not just a home race, it's a moment that could change everything. Amidst the team's history and the zealous hopes of the Tifosi, Ferrari has promised a package of technical upgrades that it claims represents a significant evolution. But promises alone are not enough. The world now waits to see if Ferrari can turn potential into success. For Lewis Hamilton, this is more than just another race. After a disappointing start to the season, the pressure is beginning to undermine the grand narrative built since his move to Ferrari was announced. Imola presents a crucial opportunity for Hamilton to demonstrate that his decision was not a fatal mistake, but rather the beginning of a new legacy. However, if he performs poorly again, the shadow of failure could quickly become a harsh reality, and it will be increasingly difficult to restore public trust. Amidst this tense atmosphere, Juan Pablo Montoya, a former driver known for his outspokenness, made a scathing comment that felt like a hard slap to Ferrari management. Ferrari has potential. But potential without courage is just a fantasy. If they are not ready to make hard decisions now, they will regret it all season. The comment touches on the heart of the matter. Ferrari is often seen as too conservative in its strategic decision-making. The company is perceived as being too afraid to take risks and too busy protecting its image rather than focusing on achieving real results on the track. With mounting international media pressure, impatient tifosi, and internal team dynamics still finding a balance between ambition and execution, Ferrari is at a low point. Imola could be a turning point, a place where Ferrari can rise and prove its legendary status by showing courage and determination, not just relying on its big name. However, if they fail to perform competitively, Imola could also be a tipping point, the beginning of a difficult-to-stop downward spiral in terms of both performance and psychology. Will Ferrari use Imola as a stage for a comeback, or will they watch their dreams collapse on their home turf? Write your thoughts below.